Dear friends, good afternoon. Today I have the pleasure to have as my guest at Legal Matters, Ozdil Nami. Ozdil is a fellow Turkish Cypriot. He's well known to the Greek Cypriot community from the various posts that he held in the Turkish Cypriot community, and mostly with his tenure as negotiator, right?
Correct.
Is it a special negotiator or negotiator? So Ozdil, welcome. I'm very happy that you are here. I welcome you to Legal Matters. It is the first time that I have a live in-person discussion with a Turkish Cypriot. You are the second Turkish Cypriot that comes to the podcast, and I'm very happy about it. And I hope that we'll have a good discussion today about you, Cyprus, the Turkish Cypriots, the Greek Cypriots, and so forth. So I would like, first of all, to start. I always start with some biography and to get to know better my guest. So I saw that you were born in London in 1967. How come you were born in London? Your parents were there?
Actually, my grandparents were there.
Grandparents.
As you know, during the Second World War, the economy was not doing good in Cyprus, and many people immigrated there. That included my grandfather. He was actually helped by the then judge, Mr. Tornaridis.
Kriton Tornaridis.
Yes, because my grandfather was also working in the courts as a translator.
Okay.
And they were friends, and he sort of facilitated that. And that's how the family, mother's side, got established in London.
The roots of your grandfather from Cyprus, where was he from?
From my mother's side, the family is from Paphos, and from my father's side, they are from Bodamia.
Okay. The name of the grandfather and the grandmother?
Well, my maternal grandfather,
yes,
his name was Salih, and grandmother Cemaliye, and my paternal grandfather was Kazım Nami. He was the chief of police of Nicosia in the 1960s. So he was
after the independence.
Yes, after so he was in the police force before the independence as well. But after the independence, until '64, he was high-ranking police officer. He became the chief of police of Nicosia. So those events took a part of my family to London, and my mother, when she got married with my father, they decided to settle in Turkey because my father found a job there, but she had no one in Turkey.
Okay.
So when she became pregnant, she went to her family in London, gave birth, and that's how I ended up.
So you have British citizenship as well?
Yes, I do.
Because you were born there,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Okay. And you grew up in London, or you went back to Turkey?
No, we went back to Turkey until 1976. We were there. So we would come to Cyprus on summer vacations.
Okay.
It was the highlight of the year for me. I was living the whole year just waiting for that 2 weeks or 3 weeks to come to Cyprus.
Where to? Where did you go?
Well, we had family in Nicosia and Paphos, so we would visit both of them, and then we would go around the island. I do remember the old Nicosia airport, and we have family pictures from there.
Yeah, so you were flying
from Ankara to direct to Nicosia airport. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Actually, those years after independence, let's say from 1960 to 70, were good years. I mean, the relations between Cyprus and Turkey. I think Makarios visited Ankara at some stage as well.
Well, yes and no, because for us, it was quite painful. I remember growing up in Ankara, every day was filled with stories that would come from Cyprus.
Really?
Family being in danger, people moving from one place to another.
In Paphos or everywhere?
Everywhere.
Okay.
And my father, from in 64, December 63, one event happened at Christmas, and then my father received a letter from my grandfather, who was the chief of police, saying that unfortunately the Greek Cypriot militia initiated their attacks, and all the Turkish Cypriots are in danger. Probably the family will be wiped out. And my father and his brothers, he had two brothers at that time, also studying in Turkey. They should stay in Turkey and continue the family name.
Okay.
So
and this was by letter?
Yes, at the back of a very small letter that was sent to Ankara via people who were injured, were being transferred back to Turkey. And one of them brought this letter.
Your grandfather was chief of the Turkish Cypriot police?
Yes.
So
no. In those times, Nicosia had two
chiefs.
Exactly.
Yes.
So my grandfather was the Turkish one. Anyway, so he had to. He felt obliged to come, and they did land in Kokina, 40 students, and he was one of them, and they had to stay there for 2 years. He lost one of his brothers there. I carry his name.
Okay.
So it was
the fights there.
Yes, exactly. So after 2 years, they went back to Turkey, but until 74, the news from Cyprus was always making us nervous.
Okay.
Although we would come for holidays, visit the family, there was always this sense of something is not right.
Sense of insecurity, let's say. Yes, and things were not stable.
Exactly.
Okay. So your childhood years, most of it were in Turkey.
Yes, until 76.
And your memories from Cyprus are during the summer that you were visiting here.
Yes.
So from your perspective, when you were here as a child during the summer, what was the relation between the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots? I mean, was it tension everywhere, or
we had no contact whatsoever in those days with Greek Cypriots? When we would come, I wouldn't see. The first time I met with a Greek Cypriot, I believe, was in the 80s. It must be 83 or something. In London. Okay. So I grew up without having any contacts with Greek Cypriots.
Okay. So when you were coming here, you just met with the
community, with our own relatives, our own community, in our own neighborhood.
Okay. And you finished the school in Ankara?
No. As I said, in 76 we moved back to Cyprus.
So you were 10 years old.
Yes, indeed. And then I finished my elementary. Then I went to the Turkish Cypriot version of the English school that you have here. So it was an English medium high school. We did in Nicosia. So we did our A-levels, O-levels, whatever. And then for a year I studied at a university in London. And then I transferred to another university in Istanbul, Bosphorus University, and graduated with my business degree there, and came back to Cyprus.
Okay, I want you to see your, how you were facing things at the time. You came in 76, so it was after 74, right?
Yes, 2 years after.
2 years. So what was the situation in the Turkish Cypriot community? I mean, the 1974 was 2 years apart. Things were very tense at that time. How did you grow up?
When I came, of course, in 74, when Turkish troops landed and everything, the first feeling we had was, I remember thinking, oh, thank God, Cyprus problem is finished. because every day in our home, we would talk about the Cyprus issue. I mean, my parents, and we had a Cypriot community in Ankara. They would gather, and it was always a big worry. And when the Turkish troops came, and the feeling was, oh, it's over now, it's finished.
Was it because you felt a sense of security?
Indeed. So our family was going to be secure, and some kind of a resolution between the two communities would be reached. That was the sentiment.
Yes. But the feeling that you had as a community in that era, in that period, was that you were in danger from the Greek Cypriots to be thrown out of the island. It was
killed, basically killed.
This is what
this was. That was the sentiment within the family, that no one's lives were safe. The movement were restricted. Economic opportunities were restricted. So it was not a pleasant life. That was and as a child, I remember this feeling that I love Cyprus. We want to go back there, but we cannot. It's not safe. That was the feeling. So in '74, after the events, it was a feeling that, from now on, our families, our relatives, our loved ones will be safe. And in '76, when we came, it was a very relaxed atmosphere. It was a very exciting period for all of us. It was like we were all establishing a new life, a new future for all of us. That was the sentiment.
Yes. Of course, you were very young at that period. I don't know if you remember, but what was the feeling as to the direction of the Turkish Cypriot community at that time? So, the events took place. Now we feel safe. There is not this Greek Cypriot or Greek danger, let's say. Where do we go from here on? Are we going to stay alone? Are we going to find a solution? I mean, it was Dektash at the time.
We never thought that it was going to take 50 years without a solution, because talks were taking place. Dektash was in charge. People had trust in him, and UN was heavily involved. We had representatives, and so we always felt as if a permanent solution is inevitable, and it's around the corner. That this hard border with no one being able to cross and everything, this was just for a temporary period, and we would reach normality soon. Never in our wildest dreams did we imagine that it would go for decades and decades without this permanent solution.
At the time you came back in 1976, was there an organized community in the north? Was there economy, democracy, political parties at the time?
Yes, indeed. No, it was a well-established system. Actually, one could feel that it was running better than the system in Turkey.
Really?
Yes. We had quickly organized after the war. They, of course, at that time, organized the economy. It was basically private sector was allowed, but the main player was the state, the government. Many of the factories left behind by the Greek Cypriots, they collected them under one state company. My father became the vice chairman of that company. And they were running those very efficiently, exporting to many Middle Eastern countries, to Turkey. And they were doing, the economy was doing quite well, actually, in those years.
At the time, Özdil, what airport were you using in 1970?
Famagusta port. Airport was Ercan. Ercan, yes.
It
Ercan.
was from that time in 1976?
Yes. They and making it operational. So the flights were there, the airport, the seaports was functioning. And I remember as a child, life was better than what I was having in Ankara.
And you would characterize it as normal? life from there
except for the fact that we knew the island was divided. We couldn't go to Paphos. We couldn't go to Bodamia, our own villages, our own towns. We wanted to go, we wanted to see, but we would come, and at Ledra Palace there were barriers. And in the primary school, United Nations soldiers would come and visit us, and they would bring us milk powders. Yes, milk powders and things of that nature. So you could see the anomaly there.
You yourself growing up, were you involved in politics? Were you active in that respect, or you were just a student looking after
on
your
the
studies?
contrary, on the contrary, I could never understand people who were taking a deep interest in politics. I was saying, why aren't they trying to make money? Instead, they are opening banners on the streets. What is happening there? And
what were your interests as a teenager?
Economy. Yes, I was very interested in finance, economy. Earlier on, I decided I'm going to become a businessman, establish my own company, study in the best business schools. That was my aspiration. Yes.
Okay. And you managed to do that eventually, right?
I did.
Any interest with sports while growing up, or
yes,
anything?
I was a very keen swimmer. We had a team, a national team that would compete in Turkey and everything. So I was a part of that. I was a good basketball player as well. So I was taking part in that. But mostly I loved the sea. So fishing, swimming, and that kind of thing. And we had a very nice neighborhood, very good friends. So it was, I'm very glad that I got the taste of Cyprus from those. It doesn't exist anymore. It was something else,
It doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't exist anymore. That Cyprus is gone, I'm afraid.
I guess at the time you were growing up, there were only Turkish Cypriots in your community.
Correct.
There wasn't this wave of people from Turkey that
not so much
came later on.
Not so much. It had begun, but nothing compared to what it is right now.
Did you do military service?
Yes, for 2 years.
2 years.
Yes, but I was lucky because I had graduated from this English system, and then later in the United States, my English was relatively okay, and I became an interpreter for the force commander. So it was and actually maybe my first introduction to the Cyprus issue, and everything related to the United Nations and the buffer zone, everything. So for 2 years I did that like a diplomat.
This English school that you went, is it the same like our English school? Only the privileged boys go there? The privileged?
Yes, we had to sit an exam, and the origin goes back to the original English school that you have here.
Yes.
But after the events in 60s, out of safety reasons, some teachers were transferred to North. And who were teaching at the English school, and they started because the English school had Turkish Cypriot students, but it was not safe for them to go. So what happened was they found the building, and they started sending some of the teachers into the building in the north. And after 74. That became, they changed the name, but continued with the exact same system.
So in the army, when you served in the army and you started like being involved in the politics, let's say, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking? As you started maturing, I guess, and understanding what was going on.
Well, of course.
We are talking about 86 now, 85, 86.
No.
Earlier?
No, later, because I did my master's in the States. So I came back in 91 to the island.
Okay. It was at the time President Vasiliou was serving.
So in 91, Gali set of ideas, 92, when I was in the army, that came. And my father at that time was the chairman of the Businessmen Association, and I was in the army. And the business community, by and large, they were supporting a federal setup. and EU membership and what have you. In those times, it wasn't EU, European Community. And so 2 years in the States also impacted me a lot. So I remember in the army when Gali set of ideas came, it had. I was asked. I was maybe one of the first ones who saw it. I was immediately asked to translate it into Turkish and present it to the commander. And I was translating.
The commander was from Turkey?
Yes, the Lieutenant General.
And it was the commander of the whole...
yes, all whole troops in Cyprus. So, and I was translating, and I saw a paragraph, maybe it was paragraph 13, if I'm not mistaken, saying that the question of Cyprus's membership into the European Community will be put to the separate simultaneous referendum of both communities. When I saw that, I said, oh my God, we have found a way to solve the Cyprus problem. Because both communities want to become a member of the European Union. So here we are given by the United Nations, by the Europeans, almost like a key to overcome the differences and agree on a common vision.
Yes.
But at that time, unfortunately, the Turkish Cypriot leadership and the government in Turkey had different ideas. They didn't like it.
In Turkey, it was Prime Minister Özdil, I think. At the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
Yes, and it was Prime Minister Thatcher in the UK as well, who was supporting the effort, if I remember correctly. But Mr. Vassiliou said in an interview that Thatcher told him that he would get Özdil to agree on the Gali set of ideas if Vassiliou was re-elected in 1993. He wasn't, and then clearly this came with a new agenda, at least in the first years, and that effort stopped. Yes.
So that was a big missed opportunity, I believe. And
was this belief shared by the Turkish Cypriot community as well, if you are aware of at the time?
At least by the business community and the trade unions, yes. So if Denktaş had signed it, people would be happy. That was my feeling. But, you know, what happened, and we missed that boat. And I think that sort of was when Denktaş's authority started to be questioned.
Okay, so you put this as a milestone, like from that point onwards, Denktaş's authority or
people started to ask
to question,
harder questions, and so maybe we have to rethink what we are doing here. And anyway, then after the military service, I joined the family business, but President Denktaş asked me to join his team. There weren't that many U.S. graduates coming back to Cyprus. I was a rarity. And I started getting invited to TV shows at that time to talk about mainly economy. But when you start talking about economy, you can't help talk about the Cyprus issue. And he was also a family friend. He knew me from when I was a baby. He knew my family very well. And he asked me to join his team as an advisor on economic issues. But it didn't take long for him to take me and integrate me into his negotiating team.
Okay.
And we worked together for 3 years.
When was that?
97, 2000.
Okay.
And then I realized this was not going anywhere, so I resigned. From there. A couple of things happened. One was...
What is your assessment of Denktaş? How was he?
Extremely intelligent, very pleasant to talk with, but he never believed that we could become partners again. I mean, maybe he tried, but the things he lived wouldn't let him overcome the psychological traumas probably that he had.
So in his mind, he was certain that living together was impossible, and that
he believed, and I would talk with him for hours and on, just the two of us. He believed that it doesn't matter what we sign with the Greek Cypriot side, they will always find a way to undermine it. They will always find a reason to say that it's not working and try to change it. And once Turkey goes back after a comprehensive settlement, that would happen. He believed whatever happened in 1960s would happen again. Therefore, his idea was this concept of separate sovereignty, that we have to have separate sovereignty, at least for a single day, register ourselves as a separate sovereign country internationally, and have cooperation agreements between the two sides, and maybe eventually, like Switzerland did, we may start out as a confederal settlement, but gradually turn into a federation. But he was saying the future generations should decide. A lot has happened, and we cannot start as if these didn't.
Yes. Andreas here, Seraphim, tells us that the Prime Minister of Turkey in 1991 was Yildirim Akbulut until June, when Mesut Yilmaz took office. Ah, really, Andreas? I thought it was Özdil. Perhaps Özdil was before.
Probably before, yes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about Denktaş. In his mind, if you know, the problem between the two communities started in the 60s or before the 60s?
Even before, of course. I mean, he remembered everything that happened until the 1960. So
was it from 55 because of Enosis? I mean,
yes, indeed.
So I mean, was he able to point a point in time that?
I don't remember him mentioning a specific year at a time, but
or event, for example,
one event. But you know, in his mind, it was never an easy relationship. Of course, we had you know, good personal relationships. He had excellent friends, very good friends from the Greek Cypriot community. Clearly, he would talk very fondly of them, but he would say, community-wise, the relationships that in his mind, the Greek Cypriots always saw Turkish Cypriots as a minority. In the Greek Cypriot psychology, according to him, Cyprus is a Greek island. And Turkish Cypriots are here for one reason or another. They can be tolerated. Some minority rights might be given, but that's it. This business of equality is too much.
Yes.
And later on, what the events that happened sort of proved him right in that respect. So he was extrapolating this to future.
Okay. What did he think of the Cypriot presidents, Kliridis?
I mean, I never heard him speak ill of anyone, Greek Cypriots. I mean, he was saying that, you know, they are serving their own community, but that doesn't mean that they are respecting our rights. So he was a bit angry, I think, a bit bitter about all the things that he had to live through.
So you served there for 3 years?
Yes.
And then?
And then I resigned.
Why?
Because I saw that it was not going
anywhere.
And Holbrooke had come to Cyprus, if you remember.
Yes.
And he talked about expansion of the European Union, enlargement, the fact that Turkey should also be a part of this, Eastern Europe clearly. So he described this big picture and sort of what was going to happen.
Yes.
And the fact that Cyprus is an impediment on that project, and the Cyprus issue should be resolved.
Yes.
Of course, without ignoring what happened. So it should be a bizonal, bicommunal federation with political equality, some territorial adjustment, and that's it. So, but Denktaş said, no, this is not the way it's going to be. Sovereignty is extremely important. We have to lay all the rights on that base. Of course, recognition of TRNC was not acceptable, and that failed. And that made me realize that all these talks under UN, under his leadership, is not going to go anywhere. And we would be in a more difficult position, because if we behaved that way, we could not hold hostage anyone, because it was a very big project, and we would end up allowing a Cyprus run only by Greek Cypriots to become a member of the European Union. And we would be in a more difficult situation, both us and Turkey.
Did you communicate your concerns?
Yes, not only me. I was very junior at that time, but many people. And
so it was a critical for you. What you said is very important, this thing about the European Union, because that prospect at the time wasn't even clear for the Greek Cypriot community in 96, 97. There wasn't even a decision by the EU for the enlargement. It was something of a vision put on the table.
That it was, for the leadership, it was clear that it was going to happen. Of course, I remember, made legal arguments saying that, listen, according to the 1960 treaties, Cyprus cannot become a member of any union in part or in whole. The legal text is very clear on this one. But I remember attending a meeting and Commissioner Verheugen came. He was commissioner in charge of enlargement. And when Denktash made a very excellent case, a legal case, about Cyprus not having the right to join without Turkish Cypriots in a divided, he listened very patiently, and then he said, but Mr. Denktash, we are making a political decision and not a legal one. And that was the end of it.
But let me ask you at this point, I'm very curious. How could Denktash make a legal argument for this issue? I mean, what was the basis of it from the moment that he declared a separate TRNC? I mean, he violated, the TRNC in a way violates the 1960 Constitution. So how can you say that based on the 1960 Constitution you cannot do that, and at the same time I have a separate?
Yes, I can see your point. However,
I mean, how did he rationalize this?
The way it was constructed was, okay, we declared TRNC, but in the constitution of TRNC, in the introductory part, it says that this declaration in no way prevents a federal solution to the Cyprus issue, and the hope is that it will facilitate such a thing. And so the talks, and the second point was nobody recognized TRNC anyway.
Yes.
So it was not seen as an impediment. If TRNC was recognized, then people could say, okay, we recognize you. You have no say on what Republic of Cyprus does. But the fact that they didn't allowed Denktash to continue to say that, okay, you make up your mind, does Republic of Cyprus as it was established in 1960 exist, or it doesn't? If it exists, then and its constitution is valid, then a divided Cyprus cannot become a member without the consent of both communities, and also cannot become a member of a union where guarantor powers are not also members of. These are clearly written there. But as I said, to cut a long story short, it was clear that in the real world, legal arguments take you to a certain extent, then realpolitik kicks in, and that was such a juncture.
Still, do you think that if there was someone else in charge at the time, instead of Mr. Denktash, if Akinci, for example, was in charge, and considering that we are in 1998, clearly this changed, and he said for the European Union goal, he put Vasiliou negotiator and everything. Things could turn out differently if you had on the other side as well someone that could see this European vision.
Yeah,
this prospect.
It wasn't only up to him. It was also the government in Turkey. So until Erdogan came, the government in Turkey was also very skeptical about Turkey's place in Europe. They saw a danger in all this EU business. The danger was they saw in Turkey, they established a system founded by Atatürk, And they saw the military as the guardian of that system, secularism and everything. As you know, Turkey is a very conservative country. So in their view, and also they have minorities like Kurds and everything, and not in the legal sense minority, but a big population.
A substantial part of the population.
A threat of terrorism was with them all the time. So they were afraid that if the status quo they had established very carefully was undermined because of EU reforms, democracy, rule of law within the EU context, Turkey's stability would be in danger. Secularism may become under danger, and the territorial integrity could. And they never trusted that Europeans would, in fact, take Turkey in. So for them, they were saying that let's have better economic relations, but the political business should be our own.
Yes.
This mentality changed with Erdogan. And Erdogan said no when he first came to power.
It was in 2003 or
2000. He said no. Of course, Turkey was going through a very severe economic crisis, and he said the way out is for us to become a normal European country. We have to speed up the accession process. Army, we have huge respect, but it should behave like a normal European army, should not interfere with politics. And he collected a lot of support from all walks of life, including the business community there.
In Cyprus or?
No, in Turkey. In Turkey.
Okay.
So this had a huge impact on Denktaş.
Okay.
And he realized that Turkey, this big transatlantic, was changing course and making a serious attempt towards EU membership. And the biggest obstacle was the Cyprus issue. So at that time, it was clear to all decision makers in Turkey that for this vision to materialize, Cyprus issue had to be resolved. And that's how the social dynamics in North Cyprus change, ending in Denktaş not running again and a person like Talat becoming the president. But the problem was, and I was at that time an NGO leader, a leader of the Turkish Cypriot Businessmen Association.
Okay.
We were in close solidarity with the biggest businessman association in Turkey. So that would be like the counterpart of KEVE in Turkey. So there was this big movement, and but we failed to make the change in time. In time, it is true that Denktaş didn't run; Talat came, but by that time, Cyprus was already allowed into the European Union. And we ended up having one yes and one no vote to the Annan plan at that time.
The no of the Greek Cypriots at the Annan plan, how was it received by the Turkish Cypriot
it was
community?
a big disillusionment, big disappointment, a feeling of betrayal, because tens of thousands were on the streets to make this change. We couldn't believe that such a historic opportunity would be missed. And we thought that, no leader within the Greek Cypriot community would prevent reunification of Cyprus by their vote, but it happened.
Do you ever try to put your position in the side of the Greek Cypriots and try to understand why they voted no? Or it is completely impossible for you to do this exercise?
No, I understand very well why they voted no. They voted no, vast majority, because they were told that now that Cyprus was a member of the European Union, the Greek Cypriot leadership could negotiate a better deal for Greek Cypriots. And that was a very rational argument, and which ended up gaining a lot of support. If the same plan was put to referendum a year before, when the consequence of saying no would be also saying no to EU membership, because in the original draft of the Annan plan, the referendum questions had two parts.
Yes.
Do you say yes to this plan, and do you say yes to the EU membership? If the exact plan was put the referendum in that format, the result would be a yes. So it was this us missing the train and allowing a Cyprus only run by Greek Cypriots to become a member of the European Union that changed the dynamics. And the men on the street, they are naturally afraid of change. This is not only for Cypriots, everywhere in the world. Referendums are tricky. People are afraid of change. They like the status quo. They must have a very good reason to make a radical change in their life. That reason was gone. When that reason was gone, the preferred option was, let's continue our life as we know it. We are safe. Our economy is not so bad. And our leader is now saying that he can get us a better deal. Why don't we listen to him? And that was a very natural consequence.
Yes. So from your perspective, you see Annan plan as a lost chance, let's say.
Yes. Not only me, or Secretary General at that time, and many European leaders. So it a very historic chance, which it wasn't perfect at all for neither community. But the amount of goodwill, at least on the Turkish side, was so high that no country is established perfectly. But in time, by helping each other, by collaborating with these mechanisms that were created, we would evolve to something better, like all countries do. And
do you think Erdogan's stance at the time was genuine? Would he work towards a solution had the Annan plan been accepted by Greek Cypriots?
Yes,
because as you know, there is a danger. There is the issue of trust here.
Yes.
You told it yourself on many interviews between the two communities. So
the thing is, I mean, who trusts the other, how much, is always a big unknown. And you can't simply reject an agreement saying that I really don't trust. Everything looks fine, but I don't trust you. With that mentality, you never end. You just have to live it and see it. And mind you, after a solution, a Cyprus within the European Union would be highly immune to the decisions of the leader of Turkey. There is a bigger picture there. You are part of the biggest bloc in the world. And which Turkey has a huge interest in being in good relations with. So it would definitely be better than the situation right now, primarily for us, but I would argue for the entire island.
Because some Cypriot analysts, even I think Mr. Mavroyannis said in an interview that the provisions that we managed to get in Grants Montana, the Guterres outline, was much better than what was provided in the Annan plan for the Greek Cypriots.
Yes, but it was also better for Turkish Cypriots. So we changed many things with a win-win approach. Because Annan plan was not seriously negotiated by the leadership of both sides at that time. So if we had put our minds to it, of course, it's always possible to create something better. So after the failure of the Annan plan, one of the preconditions of a new process was that it should be a result of a Cypriot-owned, Cypriot-led process. No outside interference, no asphyxiating timelines, no arbitration, what have you. And we did that.
Yes.
And we spent 13 years creating that. And the end result was a Cypriot result that every sentence was formed by Cypriots out of their own free will. So and in Crown Montana, we had it. The solution was there on the table.
But before we go there, tell me about your journey from Annan onwards.
So
you served in several posts.
Yes. So when the Annan plan came, at the time I was the chairman of the Businessmen Association.
Yes.
No, the one that I was the chairman was the counterpart of OEV.
OEV.
So we were in close cooperation with OEV. I would visit them. They would come to us. We would talk at annual conferences.
When Denktash allowed free movement, you started visiting?
Yes, even before.
Even before?
With special permits.
Yes.
Under different hats, I was able to come.
So you had an idea of what was going on?
Yeah, exactly. We knew Turkey wants this to happen. Denktash and some of his allies in Turkey don't want it to happen. But if we try to prevent it, Cyprus would become a member and we would have bigger problems. So we should push for it. And we tried. And in the December of 2003, it was election time. And JTP, Talat, asked me to be a candidate from to become a member of parliament. And they were saying that, listen, as a member of NGO, as a leader of an NGO, you did your utmost to promote this vision of solution and EU membership. But now the time has come for you to take a step into the political life because we need the support of the business community. It's going to be only for 6 months. We are going to come to power. We are going to go to a referendum on the Annan plan. Denktash won't be able to prevent it. And Cyprus will be reunited. And after 6 months, elections will be renewed to elect the new members of parliament of a united Cyprus. You can go back to your own business. So instead of 6 months, I had to spend 18 years. So beware of the promises of politicians.
So Mr. Talat is responsible.
This is responsible. And so we did that. We won the elections. Talat became the prime minister. Denktash said, okay, I know that Turkey wants this to happen. So why not Talat becomes our person at the table? So we had the referendum, but we failed. I was stuck in the parliament. That's how my political life began. Soon after, Talat asked me to be his negotiator. And I carried 2 hats. I started carrying 2 hats. One was a member of parliament, the other one negotiator. Of Talat. And we started our negotiations with Christofias at that time.
So we have the negotiations led to the convergence points between Talat and Christofias, which is considered as a milestone again. But what happened there at the end? Something went wrong. So in the podcast we don't have advertisements or breaks, and
so we made very important progress, so much so that Ban Ki-moon at that time came to the island and he crossed from Letra Street. And there was a lot of cheering and joy up in the air. And Ban Ki-moon said, listen, you've done excellent work. Why don't we announce these convergences so that people realize that it is going to happen? And Christofias at that time, and as a person, I liked him a lot, actually. He was, in my view, a very good person at heart. But he couldn't feel enough political support around him, probably. And he rejected this offer. And what happened was, when Christofias rejected this, the hardliners in the north gained a very strong argument, saying that Talat is making all these concessions, but the Greek Cypriot side is still standing very firm, and it's not going to happen. He's making too much concessions to the Greek Cypriot side, and in the elections, Talat lost against Erol'u. And that was a big setback, And what happened was, we had Erol'u as the president, but in the parliamentary elections that followed soon after, JTP became the #1 party. And I became the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And as you know, Erol'u, just like Tatar right now, he was saying that federal solution is not working out, and we need a two-state solution. So what Tatar says now is not something new. The first version of that of this approach, not even Denktash in 1998, he made this confederation proposal.
Okay.
So it was a repackaging of that by Eroğlu, and now we see another repackaging of that by Tatar. And so, if you remember, they couldn't even have a cup of coffee together.
Yes.
Eroğlu and at that time Anastasiadis came. They were unable to meet, have any conversation, just very much like today, actually. And what I see today is like a deja vu to me. I've seen it all before.
Yeah. Okay, but Christodoulidis is willing to meet. But let's talk about it later. Yes.
So they couldn't. And no, Anastasiadis was also willing to meet.
Yes.
But he was saying that he has conditions, three conditions, that Eroğlu should accept single citizenship, single sovereignty, and single territorial integrity. Three singles, he was saying that. And Eroğlu was dead against those things. And we were stuck. And so then Turkey was actually beginning to question the merits of this thing. And they were still not detached from this EU vision. And they said, well, maybe we should do something. And as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I took an initiative. And I met with Mavroyiannis. And together we drafted...
Mavroyiannis was the negotiator?
Exactly. And together we, very informally, of course, because there was no way a Greek Cypriot official would take me as a counterpart with my official title. But as two Cypriots, we came and it was very funny. I was invited to a wedding in Limassol.
Okay.
And a friend of a friend said, you should meet this guy and you should have a coffee. Okay. That's how things are.
This is how the connection.
Came. So we had a common friend who knew what I was thinking and who knew how
the common friend was Greek Cypriot.
Greek Cypriot. So we met very informally.
You didn't know Mavroyiannis
before? No, I didn't know.
Okay.
So we just met at the house of this friend over a coffee, and we said, why are we not able to push? And Andreas explained to me that these are the UN parameters. This is what you said, yes, in the Annan plan as well. So we don't understand why your leader is now rejecting everything. And I said to him, maybe a way is, it is true that in the Annan plan we had these three singles, but we had a few other things as well, like the word constituent state, like one cannot not dominate the other, internal citizenship. So why don't we try to
mix and match,
mix these things in a summary format on a single page, the main ideas, not only the ideas that one side may like, but the ones that also balance these ideas. Okay. And that's how the 11 February 2014 agreement of the leaders was drafted. And with that, we started a new
path. So you had other meetings with Andreas as well, or it was just the wedding meeting?
No. We met a couple of times over, trying to draft, and the Americans were also quite active in those as a go-between.
Yes.
But we were making it. We were making it. So, of course, in full cooperation with the motherlands, everything. It was a very serious attempt, and we made it. Which laid the foundations for the progress that came after.
Makarios Drouchotis, in one of his books, he writes that at the same period, there was let's say, an undercover attempt to communicate directly with Turkey. Are you aware of that scenario? And he had meetings with the permanent secretary of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey. and some movement took place there.
Yes, these were happening because Turkey wanted this to happen. Turkey gave the green light that a reunited Cyprus could take place in the European Union, and they would not have a problem with this. So they were doing all they can to show their sincerity to the Greek Cypriots, to Greece, and to everyone. We were informed by all these. We had excellent communication, and we were supportive of this. We liked that. You know, they were informally talking and increasing our credibility, basically.
Yes. So you wouldn't mind that the Greek Cypriots were talking directly with Turkey?
Not officially.
Yes, not officially,
but a dialogue. And we wanted to be able to talk to whoever was willing to listen to. So I remember later on negotiators going to both to Ankara and to Athens, for example, separately.
I remember.
So these are fine. The more people talk, the more, but not bypassing and saying that I'm not talking to you, I will talk to Ankara or okay. But as a in a supportive manner, you know, we have a good thing going here, but let's make sure that we everyone understands each other very well. So in support of what we have.
So fast forward, Akinci is elected.
Yes,
and then
at that time I was still a minister of Foreign Affairs. Akinci got elected. The leader of my party, who was the prime minister, Talat at that time, he said Talat was out of the parliament, but he was the leader of the party, and the party needed a new prime minister. Talat asked me if I was interested, but at the same time, Akinci asked me to be a negotiator. So I said, listen, the very reason I joined politics was to contribute to the solution of the Cyprus problem. No position is as important as that. So if our new president says that he needs me, I have to go and help him. And that's what I did on a pro bono basis, nothing. And I became the negotiator for Akinci.
And together with Mavroyiannis, you...
Yes, we started. The problem was when Akinci took over from Erolu, many things were destroyed. The convergence papers were retracted, both sides retracted. So whatever we achieved with Talat and Christofias was basically archived,
thrown away,
and I was told, listen, you used to have convergences, but you have now 3 files instead of 1: Greek Cypriot file, Turkish Cypriot file, and the UN file. And I said, okay, so what am I supposed to do with this? Well, you are supposed to negotiate and see what happens. I said, that's not a very clever idea. You can't start from scratch negotiations. And I refused to start negotiating with Mavroyiannis. And I said, no, this is not going to happen. We have to protect the convergences. But those were created between Talat and Christofias. Now we have 2
new president. Yeah.
So I said, I see the point. So why don't we go over the existing agreements, okay? But we must have a set of rules. The overarching rule should be, we will go over the past agreements. We are free to make propose changes. If both sides agree to a change, then it can be changed. But if either side says no, whatever was agreed will remain as an agreement, because we cannot start from scratch.
Okay.
Until this principle was accepted, maybe it took about more than a month and a half, we couldn't start negotiations. But once this was established, we allowed ourselves a time limit. So there are good aspects of putting time limits. We said, okay, we allow ourselves 2 weeks for this exercise. We did it very successfully and turned Talat Christofias papers into Akinci Anastasiadis papers.
Okay. And then several negotiations followed that led to Grand Montana.
Exactly.
Yes.
Several, very intense negotiations.
What happened there?
Okay,
from
so,
your perspective.
Okay, so before Crans-Montana, what I have to underline is we made a very serious effort here, and a lot of convergences were achieved. But in the end, we came to a point where we could see we were unable to make further progress. And the reason was Anastasiadis was very reluctant to agree to further convergences before seeing what we could deliver on issues that had never been discussed: territory,
yes,
and security and guarantees. For example, on rotating presidency, informally, he would say, listen, even Papadopoulos agreed to this.
Yes.
So, eventually I will, of course, accommodate this, but I cannot do it now without seeing what you are going to do on
the territory.
Yes. And we thought he had a strong case. He had a strong case. So we said, okay, we have started wasting time here. So why don't we tell the guarantor powers that whatever we could do here in Cyprus, we have done it. And now the time has come for all of us to sit together and push the remaining issues, all of them, simultaneously behind the finishing line.
But at that point, exactly that you are mentioning now, the position of Akinci or the Turkish Cypriot community on the issue of the territory, what was it?
Okay.
Were you, between yourselves, you were in a position to give a map, for example, to make some concessions? What was the climate?
No, Chris, everything we do was in full cooperation and coordination with Ankara.
Okay.
So not only on territory,
on everything.
On everything.
So there is
on EU issues, on political equality, governance. Of course, on those issues, we would be in the lead, but the communication was seamless, very efficient. If they would have a point, they could warn us. They could say, listen, we are sending you a legal expert to have a look on this a little bit further, maybe some advice on how things are done in Europe. So everything. So when it came to territory, it was the same thing.
Yes.
We worked together. We said, okay, these are the margins that we have. So this is how we are going to proceed. The big problem was, by that time, we started getting a feeling that Anastasiadis was not going to show the courage to finish this.
When was that?
We started feeling this even before going to Switzerland here, when I think that there was this school book or a commemoration event about EOKA and all this, whatever. And Anastasiadis went there, made a speech, and this was quite contrary to the good atmosphere that we were having.
And he reacted at the time.
Very strongly. So we were saying, why is he doing this? I mean, nobody who wants a successful end would ever do such a thing. So we started having question marks. And then...
before that incident, you were confident that Anastasiadis was moving forward?
It said... initially, we had very high confidence in him. But gradually, we started getting indications that maybe we were wrong to have such big confidence in him. So it was a gradual process. His whole attitude, demeanor changed in time.
But eventually he accepted whatever you asked.
Yeah, not only what we asked, but as I said, everything was done with mutual consent. So we were trying to help their concerns, and in exchange expecting the same. And we had it. I cannot complain. We had, of course, there were difficulties.
I mean, Anastasiadis accepted very hot potato issues like the rotating presidency.
He didn't officially,
but
informally.
It emerges that he did, which for us, for the Greek Cypriots, this is a very hot issue, as you know. So
but even all past leaders had accepted such a thing. So we never thought it was a big concession on his part that he would, and he never put it in writing. So he was, but we respected that.
Yes.
We said that he was negotiating. So, but when we went to, before going to Grand Montana, the final stage, we went to Mont Pelerin, and as you know, we were trying to encourage him to give the green light for the big invitation. And he said, no, in order for me to give the green light to the big invitation with the guarantors, all our differences, and Mr. Mavroyanis also was underlining, should be at a bridgeable distance. Bridgeable.
Yes.
Everything, including territory. And they said, this means that on territory, we could have a difference, but it should not be more than 1%. And we said, fine. And we produced a map, but we didn't give the map, neither side gave, we didn't exchange maps. We produced a map that would fulfill that criteria. That was one criteria. There were a few others.
Yes.
We first agreed on the criteria, and then we produced maps that would be in line with that criteria.
The map that Akinci produced was in agreement with Turkey, this move?
Yes, all these were in agreement. But I know what you are trying to say.
You know what is said in our...
This was all in full agreement. However, the first big blow came when in Mont Pelerin, Anastasiadis was said, you know, we have to have percentage down to 1. So this was even before producing the maps. And if we get it down to 1%, then I will agree that we can go to a conference format. And Akinci said, okay, I accept. And he stretched his hand to shake hands with Anastasiadis, and Anastasiadis went blank. He said
he wasn't expecting
this. He wasn't expecting this.
Were you present?
Yes, I was there in the room.
And Andreas was present?
Yes, negotiating this. And Anastasiadis said, I have to go back to Cyprus and consult with my national council. He uttered the word, the name of Akel, what have you. And then we were like a bomb fell into the room. Because
you were not expecting this?
No. I mean, because this was just a few minutes ago, the person who was saying that you have to give me this, and that's the only way I go. The
request was that you give them up?
No. The percentages that the territorial percentages.
Yes.
The difference should be 1% maximum.
Yes, in order to go to the full conference. And Akinci said, okay.
Okay, and then Anastasiadis said, I have to go back to Cyprus and consult. So that was a big blow, and a big blow to the confidence between the two leaders. Anyway.
Why do you think he did that? And Andreas Serafim is asking.
I don't know.
Your explanation.
I really don't know.
But I guess
Makarios Rushotis wrote a book about it.
Yes.
I read it. He has one theory. Yes,
book?
I have read it. I have read the book.
But the English version.
Yes, the English version. I have no idea. I have no idea.
It was the point in time that Anastasiadis said that Andros Kyprianou asked me to come to Cyprus, or Akel,
yes.
And then Andros Kyprianou said no, this did not happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But for some reason, President Anastasiadis wanted a break and wanted to come back. But you have no explanation from your side why he handled it this way.
I mean, there was the official explanation we received, which was not convincing. Nobody believed it. So we were all in shock. And but Akinci at that time, so Özdil said, this guy, he's not going to do it, it seems. And I was still very naively saying that, no, he's negotiating, he's trying to drive a hard bargain. Let's see.
And try to gain something more. Okay, so this
we'll see. I couldn't believe that such an opportunity to reunite our common homeland would be missed. Anyway, but we managed to overcome that. And then we went to Grand Montana. Before the conference started, we showed each other the maps. proving that these 1% requirement is fulfilled.
What was the request in terms of percentages from the Greek Cypriot side?
I mean, what Anastasia had in mind was the ratio of the unemployed.
Yes.
So we gave something a little bit more for the Turkish Cypriot side. He gave something little bit less.
But Varosha and Morpho was...
I can't identify.
You can't identify. Okay.
Yes, but the thing is, the maps were, we showed it. I wasn't even in that meeting.
Okay.
It was just the leaders together with Espenaide and a UN expert on maps. So they verified that the criteria was filled. So, and the UN kept one copy, which were later returned to the sites.
Because Akinci withdrew the map.
Yeah, later on.
Later on.
When
so in essence, what happened, the maps were laid on the table, both sides saw them, the UN confirmed.
Independent expert confirmed.
That it was, that the 1% difference was applicable, and that was it.
That was it.
Okay.
And then we moved to the conference format, and the idea was, the remaining issues, and this was agreed before we went there, that we would make a package deal. So all the remaining issues would be negotiated in a format of give and take. Give and take. So you help me on governance, I help you on security, you help me on EU, and I help you on property, whatever. And all the remaining issues would cross the finishing line together.
Yes.
And we were making attempts, but it was difficult for both parties to have the full confidence to open their hand fully. So the Secretary General said, listen, I'm taking an initiative. I have listened to both sides. Here is how I see the situation. And he produced the outline.
The Guterres outline.
He said,
the 6 points.
You have other issues, but these are the 6 main issues that if you finish this, you will have your strategic agreement. And once this is in place, the rest will fall in place. And if you agree to this, then I will help you overcome your remaining difficulties. And
what did Akinci think about this?
Okay, so when we were given this, and the sides were given some time to think about it. And we analyzed these 6 points, because the Secretary General not only pointed out the 6 main issues remaining, but he also indicated in each paragraph how he thinks these can be resolved. So,
a question on the procedure. Did the Secretary General give you a paper with the 6 points, or he just read them to you?
No, paper. This was in writing.
Yes.
We saw it. And
he gave you a copy?
Yes. Okay. Both sides. And then these were identified, and how to overcome this. So for example, on governance and power sharing, rotating presidency should be accepted, and one positive vote should be there, but in a way that will not allow a dysfunctionality.
Yes.
So he was explaining, guiding us, or regarding security and guarantees. He said that the 1960 system of guarantees with the right of intervention is not sustainable. A new system of guarantees, so he didn't abolish the guarantees. He said a new system of guarantees that gives a feeling of safety to both sides should be agreed. So he said the unilateral right of intervention cannot continue, but a new system without that should be created.
You remember Kojas brought this matter, the issue of the guarantees, and it was put on the table by Greece that it was unacceptable to have guarantees at this age and so forth. Anyway,
but so everyone, including motherlands, Greece, Turkey, UK, they accepted this Guterres outline. They said, okay, this is a good foundation on which we can walk the final mile. But
Anastasiadis accepted it as well.
Yeah, everyone accepted it initially. But then when the time came to finish it, Mr. Anastasiadis said, listen, on all the issues, we have made huge progress, except on security and guarantees.
Yes.
So I need to know what is the final say of Turkey
on this issue?
And on this issue. And the Turkish response to this was this: listen, we didn't come here to say our final word on one particular issue and then negotiate the rest. No, we came here for a package deal. So if we are going to have our final word, then we will say our final word on all the issues, and we expect you to say your final word on all issues as well. But Anastasiadis was adamant. He was saying that, no, I already opened my hand very much on the remaining issue. I want to see the hand of Turkey on this security and guarantees. Is there going to be a calendar? How long will troops remain? How much?
When they will leave? What number?
So he demanded very detailed concessions, basically.
Like a roadmap.
Before saying anything about the 5 prior points on the Guterres outline. So the Turkish response, our response was this: listen, we no longer trust that even if we do this, you will open your hand and respond in kind, because what we have seen, what you have been doing in the past couple of months. So here's what we can do. We can write all this and give it to UN Secretary General. So our final positions on security, on governance, or whatever, you do the same. And let's ask the Secretary General, together with his team, to help us, and we all can all stay here, to wrap it up and engage in a serious give and take, and to finish all of them together. We are not saying that we are not negotiating. We are not saying that nothing can change on the 1960 setup, but we cannot give our final say to you and hope that you will help us on this.
This is an important point. Okay, so you are telling me that the position of the Turkish Cypriots and Turkey was that they were prepared to give in writing their position on the security and the guarantees, but hand it over to the Secretary General, provided that Anastasiadis did the same about the other issues.
Equality.
Okay.
Because that was the understanding under which we went to Grand Montana, and that it was going to be a package deal, and we would all open our hands.
And what was the response of the UN Secretary General and Anastasiadis?
He turned to Anastasiadis and he said, dear Nikos, we came here not to finish one point. We came here to finish the package. So I encourage you, and I have talked with Turkey. I know that they have told me, explained to me what more they can deliver. So I encourage you to take this line. But Anastasiadis was adamant. He said, no, I can't do this. And he was already packed up to come back to Cyprus. And that was the final dinner night.
Yes, this was the final dinner. And were you present on the dinner?
Yes, I was.
Is it the dinner that there was some strong moments, discussion, heated moments that Makarios Drushodis describes in his book?
Indeed. I mean, even I sort of
what was the
felt obliged to take the floor. It was a bit out of place because only leaders would be and the guarantor powers at the highest level could intervene. But I saw that a historic opportunity to something that I devoted more than 25 years of my good life was going to be destroyed and evaporate.
Okay, let me ask you this. Given the importance of this issue of security and guarantees for Greek Cypriots, because you know that for us it's the number one thing.
Yes.
Wasn't it possible through shuttle diplomacy to convince Anastasiadis that there will be a good proposal on this and do this next step and we will respond to it? Why didn't you?
That's an excellent point.
Yes.
We tried. But our
counterpart, how did you
we
try?
said, let's sit down, let's talk. Why don't you give your ideas to the Secretary General? We can do the same.
Yes, but Ozdil, it's one thing to give the ideas, and it's another thing using diplomatic channel. For example, Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, the foreign minister of Turkey, could give some assurances to Gocas, tell him, give him something concrete to work on. Because my understanding is that this issue was totally on the air. There was some understanding that Turkey would...
No, it was not totally on the air. We had a technical meeting before going to Crown Montana in Mont Pelerin. And important aspects of this issue was discussed with experts coming from the guarantor powers.
Security and
yes, indeed. So there was some preparatory work that was done before going to...
And what was the proposal of Turkey on that point?
No, we didn't give written... We said, listen, we are willing to have another look to the 1960s setup. Formulas can be created. And actually, Secretary General reflected this in Guterres' outline, said, by saying the unilateral right of intervention, which is the most important component of the Treaty of Guarantee, is not sustainable. And we had said yes to this.
Yes.
But a new system, okay? And the implementation mechanisms should be negotiated. The remaining number of troops is open for negotiation, but the exact there will be rapid decrease in the number of troops, but the exact numbers can be negotiated when the presidents of the guarantor powers also come to Crown Montana. So the
information we got here was that there was no commitment whatsoever on the withdrawal of the Turkish troops, from Turkey, and that there were some time frames of 15 years, and we see what happens, how it goes. So
this was
here
we were negotiating. So Turkey, of course, we had differences of view.
Yes.
Saying that is the time limit a concrete time limit at the end of which all troops or the vast majority, except for a certain number, would go, or is that time limit going to be a period of review where we assess the situation? Do we really have safety and security for all? Is everything functioning? And if yes, then we do it.
So was the NATO idea floated?
No. There was no serious discussion of NATO.
Cyprus becoming a member of NATO, wouldn't that solve the problem?
People had ideas, but NATO issue was not brought to the table either by us or by the Greek Cypriot side.
So the dinner at that point collapsed.
Yes.
And the Drouchoudis in his book mentions that Anastasiadis met for 1 hour with Mevlut Çavuşoğlu.
Yes.
And that at that meeting he told him about 2 states, something that Anastasiadis denies. But there is this information. Do you have any?
No, I wasn't in that meeting.
Yes, but
yes, indeed, Çavuşoğlu shared with us that he had a discussion and things like this were mentioned. We didn't take it seriously, and we told him that no. You either. Maybe he misspoke, or maybe he was just trying to. Actually, our idea was Anastasiadis was just trying very hard not to be put under spotlight and held responsible for the collapse of the talks in Crown Montana. And he was trying to tell Turkey, don't be too harsh.
Yes.
Maybe something that you would like better may come. In the future. So I don't know. I was not there. I can't really speak authoritatively on that issue.
In a speech you gave afterwards, you said that when we woke up a few hours later, as the Turkish Cypriots, Greek and British delegates, we found that the Greek Cypriot leader had already left. So weren't you informed?
No, maybe that's not an exact representation of what I said. What I said was, by the time we went to dinner, we were already informed that the Greek Cypriot delegation had already packed their bags to leave. We were thinking we were going to negotiate even further because we had a package there. We had difficulties. We were finding it very hard to open our final hand, something else had to happen. So if I was in the shoes of Mr. Anastasiadis, I would say, listen, we have come a long way, okay? And I don't want things to collapse. I welcome that Turkey is now accepting right of intervention is not sustainable. I also welcome that they agree to a rapid decrease in the number of troops. However, I need to learn more, like you have said. So why don't we stay a few more days and see how we can overcome this bottleneck, how I can hear what I want, while at the same time open my hand on the remaining issues.
Yes.
Okay. So we should have calmed down, stayed there, and asked the Secretary General, if you're busy, go, come back. And actually, Çavuşoğlu said he had a very important meeting in Germany, attending an international conference, and he said, "Listen, I have cancelled it. This is our top priority, and I am ready to remain as for however long it's going to take." But none of this happened.
The leader Erdogan and Tsipras were on call, and they would be.
Yes.
They were prepared.
They were prepared to join, and we made a very serious attempt. And at that point, one thing that I will never forget is this: when Secretary General said, it seems we are at an impasse, and I have to close this conference. I took the floor and I said, dear Nikos, speaking to Anastasiadis, we have worked so hard, all of us, as Cypriots, and we have created something great. The solution is now on the table. Our country will be reunited, a member of the European Union, EU law applying everywhere, and on guarantees, something new is now on the table. There is an opportunity to finish. Please take the deal. And
what did he say?
He said, I already gave too much. Turkey is not opening its hand. I cannot continue like this. And but then at that moment, the Greek Koças,
yes,
said, he said, I now realize how that the Turkish side has a serious proposal and making saying something new, and this I need to transmit to my prime minister, and I want a break. So he asked for a break.
Koças
asked for a break, saying that this is what I'm hearing from the Turkish side is very important, and I want a break. And he got the break. And in the break, consultations were done with Athens.
All this during the dinner. Yes.
So we all stopped, and we started waiting for the Greek delegation to finish their consultations. And they came back and they said, we are fully behind Anastasiadis. And then they didn't say anything new. They didn't say that, listen, our proposal is that we overcome this current deadlock with this methodology or nothing. And then the Secretary General said, okay, in that case, I have to close the conference. And that was the end of it.
Okay, let me ask you this. From your perspective as Turkey and Turkish Cypriots,
yes,
I guess that you knew the point that you were prepared to go as regards security and the guarantees. I mean, internally,
yes,
you had an idea, I suppose. Wasn't it an option for you to give something to Anastasiadis at that point as an incentive to ease his effort to stay? For example, a public statement by the foreign minister that it is something that we consider, or give a time frame. I mean, that would help Anastasiadis to show that, because given the importance of this topic, of this thing, for the Greek Cypriot community, it is very crucial for us.
We did our best there.
But it wasn't publicly. It wasn't, you didn't give a signal.
No, we gave lots of signal. The fact that
I mean publicly.
I'll tell you what. When Guterres presented his outline and asked us to give him the reply, we took it. We decided. And then we had a meeting with him to give our official response. Okay. What he said in number 6 was a huge concession from the Turkish point of view, that in 1960, we had an international treaty. And for the first time, in the previous rounds of negotiations, the first chapter to be opened and closed was the security and guarantees.
Yes.
Until Papadopoulos came, this security and guarantees was a non-issue. You keep saying this is a very, but it was the first chapter. I was a part of the Denktaş's negotiating.
You mean it was accepted as a
treaty of guarantee shall remain in force.
Yes.
End of discussion. It wouldn't take 2 meetings on security. Okay.
Okay.
So then it started being in the Annan plan. It said mutatis. It will continue to remain in force. Mutatis mutandis, which meant that we accepted that it would be changed to accommodate the new realities on it. So it was some flexibility. In Crans-Montana, we said the right of intervention is not sustainable. Okay.
Yes.
A new system. Okay. So these were official steps to help our counterpart to walk the final mile. And by the way, this was such a huge step that before giving our consent to Guterres, we said, we are now, and Akinci read it from a paper. He said, I am now about to give you my final answer to your outline. However, before I do that, I want to have your commitment that today is the day of make or break. Do I have your commitment? And the Secretary General said, yes. Then a sense of finality. So we are opening our hand and it's going to be done. It's not going to be a subject of another round of endless talks. And Secretary General committed himself. And once we got that commitment, we said, okay, we accept. Okay. But I remember like yesterday that I thought when we gave this, Secretary General's face would light up and he was said, that's it. We are now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and we will. Instead, he sort of went like this and said, I see that you are making a very serious attempt, but I am afraid it is going to be very difficult to finalize. And we were like, why? Why? I mean, we are doing this. Probably he knew something that we didn't know. And in the end, his prediction came true. We didn't have a counterpart who said, you know, this is a golden opportunity that as a Cypriot I cannot miss. I am going to remain here until I get what I want. Instead, we had a leader who had already packed his bag and was ready to come back to Cyprus.
Yes. And he's criticized by a great portion of the Greek Cypriots that this was wrong and that he should have stayed there. And this was also an issue in the presidential elections last year that by Mavroyiannis and others as well. And okay, so from that point on, it is from that point onwards that the Turkish position changed to the two-state solution.
Exactly, because we had local elections in Turkey to elect mayors of major cities, and Erdogan needed the help of the nationalists and conservatives. So the plan was he was going to tell his voters that, listen, I finally managed to solve the Cyprus problem. I managed to remove the main obstacle for Turkey's EU membership. Our economy is going to benefit. So he was going to make a political gain out of this. When he saw that this was a no-go and impossible, his strategic approach changed. He said, in Cyprus, we exhausted all the possibilities. The only thing that can be talked by now is a two-state. Varosha is an Ottoman land, and he got the cameras here and everything. So the whole dynamics for him changed.
This position is there and will not change, you think? What is your assessment?
No, it depends. It depends on what they can gain out of a solution, and what do they stand to risk.
But Tatar's rhetoric is very clear on what he says, even to the special envoy. Now he said, yes, it is. He says 2 states and we don't discuss anything.
He is saying our sovereign equality should be accepted. Listen, you have to see it from a different perspective. The Turkish side feels that no matter how we open, I mean, I'm not going here to defend Tatar. Far from it.
But give us his perspective.
Yes, but the thing is, all confidence is lost. There isn't even a single Greek Cypriot leader anymore which can convince any Turkish Cypriot leader or a leader in Turkey that he means business. That period is now gone forever. Even if we like the guy very much,
even if Mavroyiannis was elected president.
Even if he is elected, and we had such a good working relationship, and let's say theoretically I was the leader, I couldn't sit down.
You wouldn't trust Mavroyiannis.
I wouldn't. It's not a matter of trust. I couldn't.
What is it?
It's fundamentally impossible for the Turkish side to open their hand, having the past experience, without knowing what will happen if what happened to us in 2004 and in 2017 happens again.
Okay. So you mean the next day? The day after?
If it fails.
Yes,
so
if it fails.
If I open my hand,
okay,
my counterpart takes the concessions, okay, and says, thank you very much, very good, but I need more. Okay.
Isn't the Guterres outline a basis for
it is a base. It is a base.
But Tatar doesn't accept it.
No, this is the thing.
What?
After we have lived this past experience, Turkish side, both for internal political reasons of Erdogan,
yes,
but also coming from a more principled perspective, now thinks that there isn't any Greek Cypriot leadership who will have the political courage to tell their people that we need to accept a true political equality. We need to accept a security system that gives security to both sides. You need to accept a new status quo in Cyprus. The current status quo is gone. The fact that we have lost such confidence means that in order for us to push the other side to a serious new negotiation, we have to shift the current position from Crown Montana to a more hard line. This is the thinking now. Okay, so we say it's 2-state, and the Greek Cypriot leader says Crown Montana, but I also have problems with Crown Montana.
I want to discuss some points.
Okay. So both sides have taken their guard now. Okay,
it's not like this, Ozdil, because at least up to Grand Montana,
yes,
the target was a bi-zonal, bi-communal federation.
Yes,
and both communities agreed on that, and the motherlands agreed.
Yes.
And now you moved a step back, and you say, no, we want a 2-state solution. So there is a gap that opened because the Turkish Cypriot side took a new position.
Yes, but the Turkish position of 2 states was a result of these big failures and disappointments. The Turkish rhetoric is now saying that we have exhausted all efforts to find a federal solution. It is clear to us that the Greek Cypriot side is not interested in changing the status quo.
Yes.
They are happy with it. Therefore, there is no point in resuming negotiations to achieve a federal solution. This is an official position. However, what I am saying is you need to go to the reasons why this has been put forward now. And the reason is they are sending a strong message to not only to you, but to also to United Nations, to P5, that we cannot go back to the negotiating table in the same manner as we did. You need to deliver something more. And hence this sovereign equality business.
What does this mean?
Okay, so this is a very good question. It's very difficult to understand it. I don't understand it because sovereign equality actually exists in all the convergences we have achieved. So if in Crown Montana we had signed the deal and the people would have approved it, within a federation, we would have sovereign equality. Neither side would be able to claim authority or jurisdiction over the other.
Yes.
The laws,
The two constituent states will have equal power and
exactly,
authority.
Exactly, and there would not be any hierarchy between the laws of the federal government or the constituent states. So, in that manner, in the world of a federation, we would have sovereign equality.
Yes.
What they mean by this is
Which is they?
Our current leadership,
Which
and
I
Turkey.
assume you don't agree.
I don't agree. Is this? We want the other side to accept that we are a state. They don't have to recognize us. We don't recognize them either. But we are a state. We have equal rights as them, meaning that if negotiations fail,
Yes.
we won't be left out in the cold. But they don't say it in a way that, okay, we are ready to resume negotiations from where they were left off. And if negotiations fail not out of our own fault, but because the Greek Cypriot leader leaves, like in Crown Montana, or the Greek Cypriot people say no, like in 2004, then our status should be recognized. They don't put it that way. They put it as if a priori we have to have this recognition, and then we will negotiate.
Okay, but is it realistic to put this position? I mean, is it ever possible that the TRNC is recognized as a state without the Republic of Cyprus accepting it?
Exactly. I fully agree on this. I don't find it realistic, but it's a position.
And this is the position of Ankara as well, I guess.
Yes. So I see it.
Yes.
Of course, they say that this is our final say. This is yet to be seen. If that is the final say, why did they say yes to a new UN envoy to come and find a common ground? My belief is this, looking ahead, if the new special envoy, instead of trying to go into the substance of the issue. Yes. So what are we going to do about guarantees? What are we going to do about instead of this? This is our job as Cypriots. We will have to sort it out. And instead of going into issues like CBMs, give us Varosha and we give you, Famagusta port. And instead of wasting time on the if she focuses on how should we approach the final mile? Okay, where should we start? How long should we allow ourselves to negotiate? What happens at the end of that time frame? If there are still some issues, what kind of a deadlock resolving mechanism can we create? And what happens when we go to referendum if one side says no? If Turkish side says no, what happens? If the Greek side says no, what happens? Let's have this in black and white, in a clear roadmap fashion. If she focuses on that, and we see that now we have a plan,
this is your proposal, right?
This is
your idea.
My idea.
Yes.
That okay, if we have this, and the Turkish side sees that, all right, once we push the button and the wheels start turning, we will reach an end. We will be able to open our hand fully. We will make all the concessions we make, knowing that in the end, Cyprus problem will be over one way or the other.
Explain me this last part of your idea about the referendums. How do you mean it? Decide from now that if the negotiations fail, we will have the next day decided from now?
No, negotiations, in this approach, negotiations will never fail. Negotiations will be allowed a time limit.
Yes.
As we all discussed already, before going to Crown Montana, in order to be able to go to Crown Montana, we narrowed our differences to less than 1% on all issues, including territory. So we will allow ourselves a limited time, maybe a month or so, to overcome, to bridge the remaining differences. And we will do a good job, I am sure. But let's assume that we failed on one or two issues.
Yes.
Then we will know that a mechanism agreed before will be used, whether it is asking the Secretary General or a group of experts, I don't know, to arbitrate the final
bid.
Exactly. And then we have the end result, a new comprehensive settlement agreement. This will be taken to referendum. Turkish Cypriots will be told, if you say yes, Cyprus will be reunited and you will be the Turkish Cypriot constituent state, as well as your place in the federal government, in a country, a member of the European Union, and you will live happily ever after.
Yes.
Okay? But if you say no,
yes,
as Turkish Cypriots, like we were told in 2004, if you say no, you are stuck with your unrecognized TRNC, isolations, whatever, and maybe even everything that was given to you because you had said yes to the Anam Plan, maybe revoked.
Taken back. And no recognition.
No recognition.
Yes. And what will the Greek Cypriots be told?
To the Greek Cypriots, they will be told, listen, if you say yes, your country will be reunited. You will get a certain amount of territory. Turkish troops will, vast majority will go. Your property rights will be respected. There will be a mechanism for reinstatement, compensation, whatever. Okay, and that will be the end of Cyprus issue, and a new future will await you, which will allow you to cooperate even with Turkey
and if you say no?
and natural gas. But if you say no, then this will happen. So what that will happen has to be negotiated. Maybe it will be recognition of TRNC or special status to Turkish Cypriot constituent state. I don't know what it will be. Okay, my idea is it should be recognition of TRNC, and that's it. If you put the options like this to people, then clearly Turkish Cypriots, as in 2004, vast majority wants to become a part of the European Union and the isolation. They will have a huge incentive to say yes. And for the Greek Cypriots, I know how it is difficult to change the status quo, to trust Turkish Cypriots. Will the government will be functional? What will be the influence of Turkey? What are all those worries? But by saying no, if it means recognition of another state in Cyprus, then it will be worth to take the risk, and there will be a yes vote. So this model guarantees 2 yes votes, and our country will be reunited.
But you understand it's very difficult for the Greek Cypriots to accept this beforehand, right? I mean,
so that's why
you understand this, I guess.
I understand this, and that's why I'm saying this is the main job of the new envoy, to overcome this difficulty. Because unless we overcome this difficulty, Turkish side will never have the confidence to open their final hand to make the concessions necessary to get it. And when we don't, the Greek Cypriot leader will not be able to, and we will have another failed attempt.
But negotiating-wise, the Turkish Cypriot side is now in a stronger position because they start from the position that we want a two-state solution. So if we go to discussions, we give a concession and we go back. So we already gave something, and it is time for you to give something.
I don't think this position is very meaningful, what we are saying. I'm telling you that even if Akinci was, or I was, okay, and none of this two-state, we wouldn't say, recognize us first, but we would say what I'm saying right now. After the bitter experiences of the Anam and the Crown Montana, even pro-solution people like me would not sit and open their hand.
Yes, because you are afraid.
Yes.
What will happen if
exactly. So we would have to have an a priori commitment, and we would have to know what happens in the end. If I do whatever I am responsible for doing, but my counterpart does not.
Have you communicated these thoughts to Turkey? Not to the Turkish Cypriot community?
Yes, of course.
What was the feeling, the reception? Is it something that they discuss?
Listen, because for them, the whole negotiation process has lost its momentum, they shifted their attention to their local elections. Okay, so winning the next election, winning the mayorship of Istanbul, whatever. Okay, in that world, re-engaging in Cyprus talks is was not very meaningful. However, things have changed in Turkey now.
How they changed?
At the end of this month, their local elections will be over. But after that, they will have to make a serious reassessment. They want Turkish economy to get revitalized again, to go back to the period of 2002, 3, 4 until 2010, perhaps. Okay, that's when there was a serious perspective of European Union for Turkey, and they were having very good relations with the United States, even with Israel. So. And the way to make that maneuver, there are few steps that they have to take. One of them is in Cyprus. The problem is they are not so sure. Even if they make a move, this will have reciprocity. Again, I come back to this concept of finality.
Yes.
A new attempt must have this idea of finality in it, that one way or the other, this issue will be resolved.
Does the hydrocarbons issue, can it act as a catalyst to solve the problem?
It is a catalyst. There are many catalysts, but as I said, it has not proved to be a strong enough catalyst that would motivate both sides to cross the finishing line.
You know, there is this idea by Takis Hatzigeorgiou. He was
I know Takis very well. Yes, he's a friend of mine.
To invite the United Nations to establish headquarters here. And this would also help the communication between the two communities. It might create a momentum when you have the UN here and everything. How would you view such type of measures?
After a solution, in order to increase the feeling of security, a UN headquarters here could have this psychological effect. Our problem is not lack of ideas of such projects. Our problem is we are unable to agree on a new roadmap to guide us to cross the finishing line.
Yes.
Okay. The solution was there. Just saying, let's resume negotiations from there where they were left off in Crans-Montana is no longer good enough.
Is no starter.
It's not a starter because we were in Crans-Montana. The momentum was there, guarantor powers were there, and we couldn't.
Yes.
So an element was missing. The missing element was this finality, which had not been agreed a priori.
Okay, at least you are proposing something with A and B, C, and it's an idea to be discussed. On the other hand, Tatar doesn't say anything. He sticks on the two-state solution, and I wonder if we could be optimistic about this new initiative and the special envoy, or if everybody loses its time with this.
Let's be patient a little bit. I'm sure there will be very, very difficult meetings, but
I know you met her.
I did.
What is your impression?
I think her experiences in Colombia is serving her very well. Regarding this point of preparing the process design first before going into substance is something that she knows very well. Apparently, before engaging on substance in Colombia, they spent more than a year trying to agree on process design. So I think she understands the importance of this, but her success will primarily depend on the support she gets from the Security Council. And that's a big worry because Security Council is now in a big disarray, as you know, because of Ukraine and Gaza, whatever.
Gaza war. So it's a difficult situation altogether. Do you have any political aspirations?
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Don't you aspire to take on the leadership of the Turkish Cypriot?
No, that in itself is not something that I aspire to. My only the only thing that gives motivation and aspiration is to help the solution of the Cyprus issue.
Yes.
For the time being, the best way I can contribute is by doing what I am doing right now. If I being in a very unofficial capacity, no official hats, just a private Cypriot, talking to people and explaining my experiences. And for now, that's the best I can do.
When do you have elections?
Next year.
Next year, and Tatar will be candidate.
Yes.
Is there somebody else like Erhun Man that?
Probably. I mean, each party will make up their own mind.
Is it true that it is whatever Erdogan decides that eventually, or
no.
There is some sort of autonomy in a way?
No. The thing is, of course, because the Greek Cypriot side has made the Treaty of Guarantee issue as a sine qua non, you have to have the consent of Turkey because it's their signature is there. I cannot negotiate on their behalf. So it means they have a final say on all of this. However, throughout the years of engagement, what I have seen is they may have formed some ideas, but when you go and explain to them that there is another way, even a better way, they are ready to take it on board and readjust their thinking. So we, as Turkish Cypriots, have a lot of influence over their way of thinking, especially people who are coming from a pro-solution perspective. So if it is in the interest of Turkey to solve the Cyprus problem, to reorient itself towards West, and they want, they welcome people like us to talk to them and show them the way. So a few things must happen together. And when that happens, of course, everyone will do their part. You hear many positions by politicians, but when circumstances dictate, these are...
Ozdil, as we're coming towards to the end, I will tell you that you are very, very popular. There are many people online that watch this podcast. I think the most popular one was with Averov, and you are the second.
Okay.
Does it mean anything?
Of course it does.
You are both from Paphos.
Well, at least half of it.
Yes. You know that Paphos politicians rule Cyprus. Archbishop Makarios was from Paphos. President Christodoulidis is from Paphos. Averov.
There were suggestions to declare Paphos as a sovereign state.
Well, it is in a way. So, a couple of questions and we will conclude this. Let's say Turkey tomorrow morning said unilaterally, I will withdraw half of the troops.
Yes.
Would this create an insecurity for the Turkish Cypriot community?
No.
I mean, no?
No.
Okay. I thought you would say yes.
No. Turkey is a huge country, okay? And they are ready to withdraw troops when we have a comprehensive settlement. And tomorrow, if they withdraw, we would know that they have a plan. If something happens, that they can come back.
And in your mind as Turkish Cypriots, there is this possibility that the Greek Cypriots may harm you, they may do something with arms and everything, and that's why you want the presence of Turkey as a safety net.
Listen, I mean...
is it realistic to think this way? I mean, nowadays.
Okay, but when you take your car on the street, you don't plan on having an accident, but you buy an insurance just in case. So based on past experience, we are not at a point like Germany and France, for example, where they have nothing against each other. We will hopefully get there, but we cannot start from there. So we will have to have a transition, but we need to start from somewhere. I thought what we had in Crown Montana was an excellent starting point. This commitment that no right of unilateral intervention, commitment for rapid troop withdrawal. Of course, there will be many details, but willingness to negotiate.
Yes.
This was an excellent position from which we could start and finish the talks if there is a will. I don't believe Crown Montana failed because of security guarantees. I think it failed because an overall fear of a comprehensive settlement or changing the status quo.
Yes.
I don't blame anyone from being afraid of a change. It's in our nature. And unless there is the required cost and benefit, status quo will always be there. So our challenge is to create a new set of cost and benefits ahead of us. And it can be done.
Yes. From our side, as you know, the biggest thing is the troops and the unilateral, the right of unilateral intervention. From your side, what is the biggest fear of the Turkish Cypriot?
The biggest fear is after a solution and Turkish troops leave and everything, the Greek Cypriot community starts once again saying that this is not working. Looking back, it was not very fair. So we suspend this right. We don't allow Turkish Cypriots to come and participate in this institution.
So they will take the upper hand and...
Because they have the economic power, they have the past experience.
So this is the biggest...
And the numbers, yes.
Fear, let's say.
Everything starting to fall apart, okay? So, and then eventually, of course, we see the likes of, I don't want to name groups, but there are some very hardline groups.
From both sides.
On our side, it's not the same. It's not the same. Here, it's a big political power. In the European elections, they are expected to gain a significant increase in their support.
Talking about the LAM.
Yes. So, when we observe from the north, and we also see the church, the messages given out by the church, and we see this repeated rhetoric of Hellenism, Cyprus being Greek. People say that we can't let down our defenses. We can't pretend as if none of this is there. But we should engage in a new partnership and have a gradual normalization on the security front as well. So there are ways. This can be done. EU umbrella will also facilitate this. Definitely, we always did recognize that. The situation now is very difficult. I know. Each time we come close to a solution and it fails, it becomes worse than before.
Indeed, yes.
That's why we have to move very carefully in this final attempt.
Is the Cyprus problem something that is discussed between the Turkish Cypriots in their daily lives? Or it's something that is third, fourth in the hierarchy of issues? And I try sometimes to go to the websites of the Turkish Cypriot newspapers and I put the translator.
Yes.
And Cyprus problem is rarely, I see about trade unions, labor issues and economy.
People are aware that at the root of almost every problem lies the Cyprus issue, not being recognized, not being part of the international community. However, they lost hope that we can solve the Cyprus issue because they say we tried very hard. We elected a person like Talat. We even made a person like Erolu to sign an agreement with Anastasiadis. Then we had a person like Akinci. Failure.
Should we hope?
Hope is eternal. And it will continue to haunt us. But yes, we must. We must do our best because we are all civilized people with excellent person-to-person relations, with good education, and European in our orientation. I think it's a huge shame on us that we still have UN people going in between and trying to keep us.
Closing this, if you ask me, the big problem is that we we don't share a common vision. I mean, both sides, we don't see ourselves in 20, 30 years after resolution, how things will be. And if we could do that, if we could see the future, how things could be, then that would be an incentive for a solution. The fact that in our daily lives now, the problem itself, it's not a problem, to be honest, after 50 years. This is a big obstacle, if you ask me.
Necessity is the mother of all creation. If there is a necessity, then the common vision will follow.
Yeah.
Right now, people don't feel the need for creating such a common vision.
Yes.
Okay? But we are undermining our future with this and putting it into needless risks.
Okay. So, Bill, thank you so much.
It's
been 2 hours. I want to thank the audience, first of all, for being with us. I want to say that the object here was to listen to the view of the other side. It was not to make an argument or fight or repeat all over the same things. I think it is important to listen to how other people think, how they feel, how they see things, the angle that they come from. And at the end of the day, this will help people from both sides to understand each other.
Thank you for making this possible, and I appreciate this a lot. And you're doing a huge service, and thanks again for the kind invitation.
Thank you. You can see the comments. There are many questions in Facebook later on. There are different comments from the viewers.
I would like to thank them also for being patient enough for 2 hours and listening and writing their comments. And being
so, dear friends, thank you very much for joining us. You will be able to watch the podcast afterwards and the audio version in the next couple of days. Sibyl will be very angry with us. And we'll see you next week. Ozdil, thank you very much.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.